Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Bengal Brothers Podcast Live. I'm here with Coach Ray and Bengal Bob. How's it going, guys?
It's going, brother. Good. How you doing?
Doing good, man. I'm excited to be back. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, very much so.
Man. Definitely.
Yeah, we figured that we would jump on here and, the off season's officially over and OTAs are underway and we're just days away from the 2024 draft, guys. I'm ecstatic.
It's good times,
pumped up, man. I'm pumped up.
Yeah.
I'm ready for it.
Yeah, so we're deciding we'd get on here and first off, let everybody know episode 1 of season 2 of the Bengals Brother Podcast will be Tuesday, September 3rd, first week of the NFL season. So there's your breaking news announcement. And but between now and then, we're getting together tonight, talk about the draft, and then we're gonna get together a week from today on Tuesday and talk about what happens Thursday, Friday, Saturday, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you guys feel, but this is going to be an enjoyable draft. For years we would draft for needs. We were just praying that a draft pick was going to work out for us in the long run. And, we addressed a lot of the needs in free agency. I think, we're coming into this draft. I think, endless possibilities, especially at the number 18 pick. There's a lot of talent in the draft.
Yeah, and I think good, Coach Ray.
I was going to say, man, I'm with you 100%. I mean, I'm pretty happy with what we were able to accomplish,
before
especially bringing back Von Bell and
before we get too deep into the off-season recap, I wanted to, we obviously we're getting together tonight because we wanted to, people who haven't been able to keep up with everything in the off-season, we want to give them a base understanding of what happened this off-season, what all events have taken place, how the Bengals are looking going into the draft, and then, close this out with who we think maybe they're going to go after at 18, I say we jump into some off-season recap and start going through some of the things that's happened this off-season, Go ahead, Ray. You were starting to mention Von Bell, we could start going through the list of
just experience, man. I mean, you can't be mad at all what Cincinnati's been able to accomplish over the last month, really. I mean, between Trent Brown and, like I said, bringing back Von Bell and picking up Gesicki there. I mean, that's all experienced players,
Yeah, I mean, they pretty much kicked off the offseason. One of the earliest transactions was the franchise tag on T, which we'll get into. And then they re-signed Cody Ford and Travion Williams, Drew Sample, Tanner Hudson, Akeem Davis-Gaither, Joe Bacci, Trent Irwin, Cal Adamitis, and then today, Jake Browning. So those were all the re-signs. Yeah. And then as Ray noticed, the signings for this offseason were Mike Gesicki, who's a tight end, Zach Moss, who's going to replace Joe Mixon, Geno Stone, Von Bell, a big signing, Sheldon Rankins, who's basically DJ Reader replacement. Obviously, you brought up Trent Brown. And then today with Jake Browning, they signed Logan Woodside as another quarterback that's going to be in camp. So now that's all out there. We can talk about it. I personally, I'm about as excited for Zach Moss as I am anything of the signings. I think he could be unbelievably explosive. Him and Chase Brown.
Great pass blocker. I think that was a big part of the reason why they got him, is his pass protection.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's
Rip off the big one.
definitely a deep locker room now there.
Yeah. I honestly think signing Trent Brown gives them all the flexibility in the draft, and this team's built for the Super Bowl. I mean, this is a Super Bowl caliber roster, and I think they did everything in the offseason to keep that path in line. And now the draft's really about adding depth. I think there's obviously more priorities than others, but I don't know how you guys feel, but
Well,
I think they covered a lot in the offseason. 6 new starters potentially.
let me just by say, for those of you who are returning listeners or now viewers, if you go back last season, I was screaming about bringing him from New England, Gesicki, and
You were.
I know you guys were kind of like, we don't need to add some of these pieces. And at the time, it was before the trade deadline, so I get that. He's going to be the best tight end that we've had in Cincinnati in a while, I think, as far as pass catching ability. He can do the contested catches. I think he's going to be great for Burrow. He's not had the caliber quarterback, to play with that he's going to have with Joe. So I think that's going to be a huge end up being a huge signing for us that some people may be underestimating right now.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And, I think Trent Brown, I mean, now if we're going to get into draft stuff later, but you not only do you have more flexibility in your first few picks, you also now, if you do take a tackle, which is a lot of people's favorite, and we'll get into ours later, but that guy doesn't have to come in and be impactful right away. You want him to be, but he can come in and compete. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, with that being said, I mean, it's one of those things. I mean, it's the health concern for me with Trent Brown. I mean, how healthy is he going to stay? That's right. The only question mark I have on Trent Brown.
But if he can stay healthy, you solidify the right tackle position.
He definitely could.
And honestly, if you end up drafting a tackle that's quality, and with them re-signing, guys like Cody Ford, who's versatile, if you get banged up later in the year, which everybody battles injuries, you got 15 games out of him, 16 games. I think that's worth the deal that they gave him, to be honest.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because right now it's all about protecting 9. No.
Right. I mean, that's football. Protect your quarterback and wreak havoc on the opposing team's quarterback. I mean, that's what it comes down to in today.
Yeah.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
That's why I think bringing in Sheldon Rankins was huge.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know. I feel sorry for anybody who didn't see his welcome to Cincinnati presser because, man, I think he's going to fit right in with this culture. He seems like a really good dude, and
Yeah, I agree. And honestly, the Sheldon Rankins and Trent Brown signings were probably the 2 most impactful transactions this offseason because you lose DJ Reader and then you lose Jonah Williams. So you bring in Sheldon, who is maybe not as dominant in the run game and holding the line of scrimmage as DJ Reader, but he's a better pass rusher, which is something that we've lacked. And then, you take in the fact that Trent Brown on his best days is better than Jonah Williams. And then including those 2 guys, you signed 6 starters, literally. You signed 6 starters this offseason, and the Bengals have 10 picks. So they have literally everything in front of them right now. And if you just add depth at tackle, interior defensive line, corner, maybe another receiver back in.
The best thing about it is you're not in position to where you got to draft rookies and you're relying on them to be opening day starters for you. You know?
Well, let's talk about the elephant in the room then, man, before we move on here. T. Higgins.
Yeah.
Last season?
I definitely think it is. Yeah.
I think so.
Is he going to make it to the start of the season?
Yeah.
Is there going to be a last-minute trade? I mean.
Yeah.
I think Cincinnati technically has up into, May something, I think the end of May to decide whether or not, even though he signed it, we still have that option. So
Yeah.
I think
I
either way, this will be his last season, man. I just
yeah.
don't see it.
No, I completely agree. And I think that you know, like the receiver market has been very slow this offseason. I truly believe it's because everybody's trying to get younger. So the teams want to find out who's going to get a receiver in the draft. So once that starts shaping up, I mean, it could be something like the A.J. Brown a couple years ago and T gets traded on draft night, but I don't see the Bengals doing that. I think if they're looking at it as like we can get a top 12 receiver in football on a franchise tag for a season with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, that you're not going to really find much better than that during your Super Bowl window. You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, someone who's not really been talked about a lot's Tyler Boyd. I mean, he's still sitting there, and just 2 years ago, what do you have? One drop. I mean, I think he's still one of the best slot receivers in the game today. I'd like to see them bring Tyler Boyd back, sign him to a 2-year deal, and see what happens there. Maybe he can retire as a Bengal.
And
I'd like
I'm
to
with
see
you,
Tyler
man.
Boyd retire a Bengal.
I'm with you, man. I mean, Tyler Boyd, I've always been a fan of TB. I mean, he reminds me of older wide receivers that come to mind, like Chris Carter, that,
Yeah.
those were the clutch receivers on 3rd and 8. You know what I mean? And TB, time and time again, has come through on that 3rd and 8.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he had some drops.
A security
All
blanket for
receivers
Burrow through
do,
stretches.
Right.
I
mean,
they ran
I don't think
that.
us as Bengal fans, we should close the door on Tyler Boyd yet.
No, and honestly, I think he's right there in the mix in terms of teams are waiting to see how it shakes out in the draft. If you're a team that needs a receiver, especially someone who can start day one, and you don't get one early in the draft, you're going to go after guys like Tyler Boyd. Even if the market hasn't been big for him now, post draft, it for sure will be.
Yeah, I think the offer Pittsburgh gave him was kind of insulting.
Yeah.
Well, that's good because we don't want him to go to Schittsburg anyway.
I know, man. I think TB felt some kind of way because he's a Pitt boy, So.
Yeah. Well, I think we touched on franchise tag with T, the re-signs, and new signings, and anything else.
Just to cut you off, and I thought Geno Stone was a good pickup too. Led the AFC in interceptions last year.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of struggled at safety last year, so
yeah. Honestly, the biggest part was
who gets those jobs. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's going to make for great competition.
I was going to say communication was the biggest problem,
room.
And now you bring in back Vaughn, who can coach the system. So that's going to help the communication huge.
Back. Right,
to be that person. And now Geno is an established veteran. So, I feel much better about the back end of the defense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then signing guys like Trent Irwin and Joe Bocci and Akeem Davis-Gaither, those are guys that are grinders for your franchise. You know what I mean? And Tanner Hudson re-signed. That was big. Like, honestly, I was sort of shocked at Gesicki because Tanner Hudson, I think, proved he could be a number 1 tight end in a lot of ways as a pass catcher. So it's going to be interesting to see his year 2 within this system.
That's why I think if they were going to get a tight end in the draft, it's going to be a real late round pick. Because I know there's a lot of Brock Bauer fans out there, but I think we're all right at tight end. I think we're more solid at tight end right now than we've been in a while.
I mean, that's if he's even going to be there. But we'll talk about the draft on the back.
Right.
End.
I mean, you got the pass blockers, and now with Gesicki, you got the receiver. So,
yeah,
definitely, man.
Ray, is there anything you want to touch on the offseason recap before we start getting into some offensive needs, more specific things?
No, let's keep it going, brother.
Well, personally, I think if T, this is assuming T is going to play this year, which as of right now, all signs point to that, including internally, T, all of it. This offense doesn't need a lot. We just need to keep grinding the offensive line train, keep developing, and we've gotten bigger. I mean, we have the 2 biggest tackles in football now, and if we can just consistently give average and above O-line play for Joe Burrow, we can make deep runs in the playoffs, and this year can be no different. You know what I
I
mean?
agree. I agree. Like I said, with the comment earlier, it's about protecting your quarterback and getting pressure. And right now, as it sits, there's 4 Super Bowl champion linemen that are starting for the Bengals.
Yeah,
A couple years ago, we made a Super Bowl with a bottom 5 line.
yeah,
Now, granted, our receiving core tore it up. When you get that kind of production out of 3 wide receivers, it's kind of hard not to win a lot of games.
yeah.
Um,
The
that's
definition of the modern age of football, for sure.
right, right, and
This team has been the definition of it.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
Volson kind of dropped off a little bit. Right now, Volson's probably the weakest link on the line. So definitely, if you do go with an offensive tackle in the draft with your 18th or your 49th pick, more than likely you're going to want someone who's versatile and someone that can start out in the guard position before they move to a tackle.
Yeah.
So the best 5 men on the field at the end of the day is what we got to put together. So.
Yeah, I honestly, I think in terms of offensive needs, they just depth. I mean, 'cause I think Volson's everything they want. He's a guy they drafted. He's a guy who's still young. He's a guy who honestly played better his rookie year than he did his second year.
Right, which
But
he bulked up before he
Volson
came
isn't
in last year.
well, but Volson's issues have never been physical.
It's technique.
He's it was astonishing how often, if there was any kind of movement in front of him, I mean, he was not good at picking up the cutter, the over the top guy. I mean, if there was any type of stunt in front of him, it was rough last year.
He trying to play catch up.
Right, exactly. But I think just trench player draft or depth, because I think they re-signed Cody Ford personally. He's the interior guy, swing player. And it's been Jackson Carman who's been the swing tackle in a way, him or Isaiah Prince. But if you draft the tackle at 18 and Trent Brown obviously starts at right tackle, now you have Cody Ford who can replace any of the interior guys and a rookie tackle who's going to cover the edge. But
I agree with you, dude. Just depth, man. Like Bingo Bob said earlier, I think we made the right moves that we needed to make. That at the end of the day, I mean, it's kind of, can we get lucky? Who's going to be there?
Mm-hmm.
Not so much late in the draft, but that first 18th pick, and who's going to be there?
Right.
Because we're definitely taking the trenchmen. Whether that's O line or D line.
And I think wide receiver has to be addressed at some point in this draft because the uncertainty that we do have. T. Higgins is probably gone next year. We may not have Tyler Boyd back. I think when they drafted Charlie Jones and Andre Yoshivach, that they kind of thought that maybe Charlie Jones would come along a little faster than what he did, last year. That, there was the big mistake in that deep route.
He kind of slowed up. I know exactly which player you're talking about.
I think Yoshi surprised them and was better than they thought he would be. And he's a big guy, got downfield deep speed.
A track and field guy.
He could potentially end up being the replacement for T. Higgins. But if Charlie Jones don't come along, then you're going to need, somebody in the slot. Now, I know that Mike Gesicki can play wide receiver in the slot and all that, but you're going to need a Tyler Boyd replacement out of this draft.
Yeah, sure. If Charlie Jones isn't going to come along.
Yeah, I mean, hats off to Trent and Irwin, man. I mean, filling that void. I mean, basically, in a sense, taking Tyler Boyd's job from him, I mean, because he's been reliable. And, I mean, the yards, it did look great on paper at the end of the season, but, I mean, he's also in a wide receiver room with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. So
Tyler Boyd,
dude. I mean, it's a tough locker room. So I do remember the play that you're talking about. And again, I think that comes back to age and experience. And I think we got enough good guys, man. I don't see us drafting a wide receiver. And if it happens, it's not going to happen until very, very late,
Yeah.
I mean, right. maybe.
See, my thing,
There's a
honestly,
chance you could get a really good wide receiver in that second round. That in other drafts is more than likely a round one projection, but it's so deep on wide receivers.
right. Honestly, though, like I think in terms of offensive needs and just in general, I think one of the things that I think as fans, we often don't have the clearest picture in terms of how they feel. And like, I think they look at their receiver room and they see Andre Yoshavash and Charlie Jones and Jamar Chase is about to sign a deal and T. Higgins, even if it is for 1 year. Like, our perception as an outside fan is like, got to have guys in the pipeline, got to have guys in the pipeline. But they feel like the guys that they have, like, hence why they re-sign guys like Trent Irwin to them. If Tyler Boyd doesn't come back, well, Trent Irwin's production is going to go up. You're going to see Tanner Hudson in the slot, Gesicki, like you said, in the slot. And with tight end being valued so much cheaper than receiver, let's say Brock Bowers does fall. One draft strategy might be for as far as offensive goes is they're like, hey, let's go get Brock, and he's going to replace a lot of Tyler Boyd snaps in the slot. Gesicki's going to replace those types in the slot. Now, last year, we had a local kid from Northern Kentucky who was sitting right there available
Michael
at the
Mayer.
Bengals pick, who fans wanted, people were ready to go get, and the Bengals passed on him because they had Miles Murphy, so much higher on their board. And I like Brock Bowers a lot, and I would be happy, ecstatic if the Bengals got him. But if he was there and the Bengals passed because, let's say, a premier top 4 or 5 tackle in this draft was available, 100% I would want them to go get the tackle over Brock Bowers even, because right now what the Bengals need to do is break the narrative that they can't protect Joe Burrow, because we know that they've done a lot. They've multiple years in a row went after free agencies. We're talking about one off season is Karras and Kappa and what's his face from Dallas. Why can't I think of his name right now? Leo Collins. Very next year, you go get Orlando Brown Jr. Then you go get Trent Brown this year. You drafted Cordell Volson along the way. So in their eyes, they've put a lot of resources toward offensive line the past 2 or 3 years. But the national media's narrative and most casual fans' narratives is that the Bengals aren't trying to – exactly. When the Bengals have actually put a lot of resources to it. But in saying that, you have to continue to break the narrative until you get it right. Because I like Frank Pollock, but he's not exactly proven that they can go out and develop guys the right way. Jackson Carman, for the most part, has not been well. Isaiah Prince, for the most part, has not done well. Cody Ford's been solid, but he was a part of a trade deal.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Oh, no,
Looks like we got a comment from Pendy69. So if the Bengals let Higgins walk, do the new 2 linemen get more than a year contract? That's a good question. It's a good point. I don't know. I think it just depends on how this draft goes. I think their main reason that they would let Higgins walk is because they got to pay Jamar Chase. I don't know what you guys think, but I think personally it's
can't pay 2 number ones.
Yeah, right.
You can't. Not when you pay Joe what you pay Joe.
But yeah. I think if Trent Brown works out really good, I think they'll go ahead and re-sign him next year, because you're going to solidify that right tackle for as long as you can with a high level of talent like he can be.
Yeah, I mean, without a doubt. I mean, Trent Brown comes in and performs. He might get a 3 or 4 year, contract that'll run him out, until he's ready to retire. Well, he's got a great attitude. He's got a great attitude, Yeah. It's a great question.
But that's
you need as much capital as you can when you have a quarterback on a superstar deal. That's the reality. And you need as much capital when you have an elite receiver that you want to pay to go along with that quarterback. So you have to get as young and as cheap at every position as possible, which is why T is going to walk. And to be honest, Higgins' market isn't that big right now because teams are waiting to see, again, if they can get younger and cheaper in the draft first.
Yeah, I thought for sure Buffalo was going to try to make a hard play at T. Higgins once Diggs left. But
Apparently, the Steelers were interested, and the Bengals hung up the phone. Or was it the Ravens? It was the Ravens.
It's the Ravens, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and obviously the Bengals wouldn't do it, but there's a guy there that New England's already made it known that they're open for business. You do have 9-10 picks. You do have T. Higgins. I mean, obviously not in this realm of today's time would the Bengals, Cincinnati Bengals ever do it. They haven't moved up 25
I already know
years.
where this is going.
But you put together a package for New England and you go up and rob the Cardinals at number 4 of Marvin Harrison Jr. And then, you're getting ready to pay Jamar. So you don't have to pay Marvin Harrison for another 4 or 5 years. So when Jamar's coming, I mean,
that would be insane.
That would be insane. And it's been brought up a lot, so I just thought I'd bring it up. I know it'll never happen, but man, you talk about making a splash.
Yeah, I think that's probably as about as realistic as the Bengals getting Justin Jefferson too.
I know.
Oh, while we're at it, dude, I say we trade 4 picks to go get Marvin Harrison. We trade 4 of the other 6 picks with our first pick to go get Justin Jefferson. And
I kind of thought our 18th package one of the 3rd rounds and a 6th round and T. Higgins to New England.
Now there's what's his name, the Thomas kid from LSU, man. I think that's his last name.
Brian Thomas Jr.
Neighbors, maybe
from LSU.
Yeah,
another Tiger. Yeah, Burrow would love that. I'm sure Jamar
some people
would.
have Brian Thomas projected to the Bengals at 18.
Yeah,
you never know who goes. Where's the run going to be?
Let's get into defensive needs and either of you want to kick us off.
Defensive needs is we got to get pressure up the middle. We need guys that can get pressure in the middle. Draw some double teams, make it easier for Hendrickson and Hubbard on the outside to get more pressure. I mean, that to me, when those two weren't on the field or DJ Reader wasn't on the field last year, teams were running it right down our throats. Yeah. And now this year, you got to contend with Derrick Henry in Baltimore. Obviously, you got Najee Harris in Pittsburgh and Nick Chubb. If Nick Chubb comes back healthy, holy shit. I mean, you're talking 3 monster running backs that you have to be able to plug the middle up.
And that's been our Achilles, man.
The toughest division of football by a long shot.
Those Achilles the last couple of years, man, just off-tackle runs, that, again, I'm with you. We get that pressure on the outside, whether that's Trey or Sam. But when DJ's off the field, I mean, it's been a fucking shit show, dude. I mean, they just gash us every time, 10 to 13 yards every time. But there's a guy floating around this draft, man, there's a couple of guys floating around this draft that could definitely be a big game changer if Cincinnati went after him at 18 and they were there at 18,
As far as defensive players?
Defensive linemen, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say any names right now, but if he's
mean,
there at 18.
Yeah.
Well, it makes you wonder.
Yeah, there's definitely
what would it cost us to move up to like 10, 9? You know what I mean? You could move up and snatch really elite players.
Yeah, I just we'll talk about it during the draft portion. I just
go up and take Dallas.
Duke and them do not move up. They're more always likely to move back.
I know. That's been 25 fucking years.
Every year, bro. Every year.
They just don't move up. We had some comments come in. Looks like Tattoo Man came in and he said, sorry, late to the convo. You guys think they're going to take a wide receiver in round 1?
It's a possibility.
I personally don't think it's a possibility. Not to disagree with you, but I think it's trench players all the way. We're approaching the draft convo, but he said Jason Newton.
Jason Newton,
PJ Salt 1. Yeah, as the Raiders talking was Jason Newton.
He's one of them. Man. There's some bad boys coming in this class.
Fendi 69 said Bengals are in position to let the draft come to them.
We are
100%. Yeah, 100%. It's Super Bowl roster.
Absolutely.
That's what I mean. Anything's on the table. Anything. Wide receiver, defensive tackle, offensive line. I mean, anything's on the table. You never know where a run's going to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You just never know.
Well,
And we're in a position to be able to take.
Like, starting to wrap up our thoughts on defensive needs. Like, I think this defense with bringing back Von Bell and going out and getting Geno Stone, I think that solves a lot of the Bengals' issues. And I think, with drafting Cam Taylor-Britt, who's turned out to be nearly a Pro Bowler, he probably would have made the Pro Bowl if he didn't get hurt last year. Do I see them going after? Because this is a deep corner draft. Excuse me. Later in the draft, going after a corner to come in and compete because we lost to Louisier. But this defense, since Sheldon Rankins is going to fill some similar roles and maybe improve us in a couple areas, this defense just has to get better communicative. One of the things that Lou's defense have been good at the past few years, and we know it, rally into the ball. This is a good tackling team, some of the fewest missed tackles in the league, and they rallied to the ball. And last year, they did that terribly. It was so uncharacteristic of guys not running to the ball, lack of communication. It really showed, and we talked about this in season 1, not having Jesse Bates and Vaughn back there. It literally showed at times glaringly. And I think having some veteran guys on the back end, is going to help tremendously. Tattoo Man said, y'all got to replace DJ, right? Yeah, and I think that's what their goal is with Sheldon Rankins. He's not the run stopper, but he's a better pass rusher.
Yeah, but when you think about 2 or 3 of these guys that could possibly be there at 18, you think about one of those guys standing next to Trey. You ain't going to run the ball that side. You just ain't going to do it. It ain't going to happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, or Sam. I see them moving Sam inside.
Not to mention the pressure that's going to come from that side of the line, dude. That's, again, I'm not going to mention any names just yet until we get into that portion, but there's a couple beasts, that
he's definitely not.
Trey, dude. It's trouble,
My draft prediction actually plays into what the tattoo commented. So
and I think
weighing on my mind is replacing someone that production of DJ Reader.
Because here's a thought going forward to just spoke or poke conversation for the draft segment, which would be after our first ad. You could argue that we're built more. The Bengals are built more to beat the elite of the NFL, and like the Chiefs and Bills, than they are to beat our own division, to win our division. Our division requires you to run the ball consistently and stop the run consistently. You have to do that to win the AFC North. And we're built to beat the elite passing teams and rush the passer. So you can argue that we're better suited to beat the high end of the AFC and the NFL than we are to beat our own division.
But we're in the position, I think, that we can use this draft to beat our division, to add some talent and some positions that we're going to need to beat our division.
Oh, calm down, Tattoo Man. Calm down.
James is talking.
Come on, bro. What are we doing there?
We'll see who's starting in Pittsburgh.
We'll start wrapping up to move into our draft picks. But before then, we're going to do a quick ad. And, today's episode is sponsored by Jet Set and Sea Travel with Taylor. And, you can go check out her Facebook page. And if you're looking to book any vacations or trips, the deals that they come up with and they have that she has exclusive, to be able to access, some of them are just unbelievable. Like they're cruise deals.
Go book your trip to Pittsburgh.
Go book a trip, or Tattoo Man can book a trip to Cincinnati, come find a hotel, go to Jeff Ruby's, come to Paycor. We won't sit with him because I'm wearing Steelers gear. But go check her page out. Look at all the crazy deals. That's Jet Set and Sea Travel with Taylor. And see what she can, reach out with a message, see what she can put together for you. And the best part is you don't pay her a dime. So she's going to find you the best deals that you can't get anywhere else. And you don't have to pay her a dime. So reach out there and see what else we got. So, alrighty. So I think it's about time to move into our draft thoughts, and then we'll eventually finish up with what we think our draft prediction is going to be. Man, the tattoo man's really landed on. He said, might as well. Bengals tickets are pretty much free right now. Since the Super Bowl, Bengals tickets have went up
Wow, man.
tremendously.
And we got a waiting list for the first.
So actually, before we get into the draft stuff, we have a new segment for season 2 called Toxic Talk, and I got a feeling Tattoo Man is going to make the Toxic Talk segment alive. So what we're going to do is every episode, because we're going to be live on Tuesday nights at 8. That's going to be our regular scheduled time during the season, September 3rd, Tuesday, September 3rd. That's episode 1 of season 2. And we're going to be live every Tuesday night at 8. And we're going to have a segment every episode called Toxic Talk. And that Toxic Talk will be us pulling comments from the internet of people just, NFL fans being toxic. Because there's a lot of great fans out there, but we also know there's a lot of toxic fans out there. And there's a lot of toxic stuff on X, Twitter, whichever you call it, depending on how old you are. Yeah.
All in good
Tattoo
fun.
Man said, I want a guest mic for that segment. Well, we are talking about bringing some opposing fans on. So when Steelers week, definitely not that week. Maybe another week.
We'll give
I do
him
not have a link to I'm assuming he meant a link to Jet Set and Sea Travel with Tay. I will have that though for next Tuesday. Now that I think about that, it's great. All right, so let's get into some draft talk, draft predictions, and then before we start closing this out here in about 20-ish minutes. I know personally, I'm just excited for the draft. I mean, I know we've all been putting a lot of effort into doing our due diligence and everything, but I'm just excited in general. I love this time of year, and this time of year everybody thinks their team's going to win the Super Bowl.
Yep.
That's the truth.
It is, man. It's that time of year. The Bears fans are like, this is the season.
Feel like we're getting Caleb Williams. Pat McAfee and them, man, I tell you what, they were going in on the Bears GM about telling him that he's like, you guys already picked him. Like, don't even worry about it. He's already picked him. Just trolling him to his face so hard. But yeah,
that's hardcore, man.
This draft, in my opinion, is one of the deepest drafts there's been in a few years, especially at key positions like offensive tackle, quarterback, corners, receivers. It is a very deep draft. There's like literally going through, shout out to Joe Goodberry and all his statistics. I mean, there is most drafts, there's, that rule of thumb is 12 to 15 guys that are actual first
You're looking
rounders.
for guys to put in the top 32.
Right. And this year you almost could have a round and a half, 2 rounds of guys that would be first round talent most years, especially at some of the key positions. So, and you look at it from the perspective of, let's say 4 quarterbacks. The Bengals pick 18. So let's say 4 quarterbacks go, the top 2 tackles, top 2 receivers, right? That's 8 picks. You scatter in Brock Bowers and maybe the best interior offensive lineman, right? The Bengals are 7 picks from having their pick at almost any position, the best any position. You're talking about tackles that would be potentially the number 1 or 2 tackle in most drafts that are 4, 5, and 6 in this draft. Yeah, Tattoo Man. Yeah, top 10 picks mean nothing but QB wide receiver. So the team's picking in the teams.
This
is a great draft.
Yeah, you can like him, bro. I don't. Tired of carrying. Tired of carrying.
All jokes aside, this really would be a good draft for the Bengals to move up in the second round. You know what I mean? it all depends how your first pick shakes out, but you do have the picks. You have 2 third-round picks. You could, use one of those, move up a little higher in the second round, and get a really great first round talent early in
Yeah.
the second round.
Honestly, one of the sleeper picks going through all this data the past week or so is his name is Patrick Paul from Houston. How many times have you heard that name? Be honest.
Not very many, if any.
Not very many. The guy he's played at Houston. He's only 22. He's a 2-time captain. He was a top 30 visit for the Bengals. And your stat of the day is the past 2 years, I believe, in total, the Bengals have only drafted 2 guys that they haven't had a visit with, at either a top 30 or one of the official combine visits. So that tells you the Bengals only draft players that they've met with. And they met with this guy. He came to Cincinnati. He was a top 30 plus a combine, played at Hughes 22, 2-time captain. His consensus is in the 50s. So he's not one of the top 4 or 5 offensive linemen. I think he's like the number 5.
So 49 wouldn't be a reach.
It wouldn't be a reach. So that's a potential move up, in my opinion, is you draft 18, especially if you have your pick at the top 7 or 8 picks. This has been my thought all along. If it is all quarterbacks and receivers and maybe the top 2 tackles, the first 10 or 12 picks, right? Suddenly you have a top 5 pick if you're the Bengals. If you get the best available player on the board, that you have the highest on your board, that it fits the best, is the highest character, has the traits you want. We're talking about the Bengals. Zach Taylor likes draft captains. If you go after a guy that you are for sure on, you like this guy head and shoulders above anybody else, regardless of the position. Maybe it's the corner from Alabama who could be a starting corner. He was started over DJ Turner this year. Maybe it's Murphy. You know what I mean? It's an interior defensive line guy. If maybe it's J.C. Latham or Fashanu, whoever, then you turn around in the second round because you have 4 picks in the first 90, and you give one of your 3 third-round picks and your second-round pick to move up, and you get that Patrick Paul kid. Even if you drafted a lineman at 1, you just got 2 top 5 offensive tackles, or you got a top 2 defensive interior lineman player and a top 5 offensive tackle in this draft in the first 35, 40 picks, depending on where you moved up to. I mean, that would be probably the perfect draft for the Cincinnati Bengals. You know what I mean?
Right. Or like I said, if you get your tackle, with your 18 pick, you can move up and get a really good wide receiver that is going to replace, T. Higgins or Tyler Boyd.
Yeah, I didn't want to say his name. His name's Kool-Aid, but I didn't want to say it because then it sounds like I'm making shit up. Like, man, you see Kool-Aid? That dude's great.
That guy's real sweet.
But dude, that just sounds like a Bengal player name. Kool-Aid. That's great.
Well, that's awesome, man.
I don't know, but I think with this being such a deep draft, just the Bengals and how good of an offseason I personally believe they had in terms of really fitting the needs so that you can have a best available draft. It's deep at tackle, corner, receiver, where I'm standing, and really there's going to be some good defensive linemen there.
Mm-hmm.
Bengals can do some damage.
Add to the Super Bowl roster.
Yeah, to go back to what Tindy was talking, I mean, it's kind of coming to us, I mean, we don't really have to go hunting.
No.
I think it's a good enough draft class that, I mean, you look at all the favorites, this is going to go quick. It's going to chew up a majority of the picks. I mean, there's going to be a lot of prospects there at 18. It just, what's Duke thinking? What's the front office thinking? Are we on the offensive side?
That's what I'm asking.
That's what you're asking. I think we're going to be probably on that defensive side of trenches, man. I think if Murphy's there, I think we're taking him. If he's not, I think we're probably going to end up on the other side of the line, and it's going to be probably like a Marius Mims. But
yeah,
That's who I got going, man. At 18, it's going to be one of those two guys,
Byron Murphy. That's what you said.
Byron Murphy,
Oh.
or Amarius Mims. It's going to be a trench player, whether it's the defensive side or offensive side. I mean, that's
Look,
going to be our first pick, boys.
I'm going to agree with you on Byron Murphy. I think Byron Murphy would be a steal in the draft for us at 18. Probably won't be there, but the guy is super explosive. He's a great run stopper. He could take on double teams, drop his knee, not get shoved all over the field. Yeah, he's going to now and then. Big run stopper. The guy doesn't lose one-on-one battles with guards. I mean, he just blows through them. I mean, that's the pressure that we need in the middle of our line. I mean, I know he's only 6 foot, 308 pounds, but Aaron Donald, Geno Atkins, all lower stature guys that are Hall of Famers. You know what I mean? Like, I think Byron Murphy would be a great pick at 18.
Yeah, I mean, could you imagine him and Trey side by side?
Right.
I mean, honestly, bro. Honestly,
It would be they would have some clean stunts because Byron's athletic
and right, huge athleticism. He can go over and plays the nose tackle. He could play 3 technique. I mean, he could play multiple positions that would go nicely with the pieces we have now. And if Miles Murphy comes along a little more, I mean, we could go from a weakness to one of the strengths of the defense. Just by, he's not probably won't even fucking be an opening day starter, but you work him in.
Yeah, like they did with Miles Murphy at the end of last year.
I'd like to see him have more snaps than Miles Murphy. I don't think Miles Murphy had enough snaps last year.
No.
But somebody who's good at point of attack like he is, I think the kid'd be a hell of a pick.
So he's talking about
Newton's another one.
He's talking about Johnny Boy, Johnny Newton. I mean,
Newton's another one that
they both could be gone.
Beast.
I'd be perfectly fine with drafting Newton too. I mean, he's another type of that player. And really, I hate what happened with Sweat because I was hoping we could get Byron Murphy in the first and pick up Sweat in the 3rd round. You know? Talk about solidifying the middle, in rotation with BJO.
Well, I both agree with you guys and disagree. I think the most important thing in this draft is gaining depth in the trenches, and that obviously mainly includes interior defensive line. I don't see Murphy being there. I don't see Newton being there. I see the top 2 tackles, 3 tackles being gone. I see the top 2 interior defensive linemen being gone, and Newton and Murphy. And honestly, I think, you look at the offensive tackle breakdown and you look at how deep it is in this draft. I really want to see them break the narrative of being able to protect Joe. And Ray brought up Marius Mims. Mims is a beast, 6'7", 340. He fits right in with this huge offensive line the Bengals have accumulated the past 2 years. But unbelievably raw, unbelievably young. I mean, we're talking about a dude who literally only had 40 pass sets this past year. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yep.
Tattoo Man Mims protected 20. He's very likely to be there. And there's a very good chance he is going to be the pick if he's there. I personally think that they're looking at it like offensive tackles 1A, interior defensive linemen's 1B. And we've had this discussion this week. Which do you weigh more? The 5th or 6th tackle in a deep tackle draft, or the 2nd or 3rd interior defensive lineman, if those are your 2 biggest things? Which do you weigh more? The 5th or 6th offensive tackle, or the 2nd or 3rd interior defensive lineman?
Is Mims better than taking Byron Murphy? But as far as I'm concerned, Byron Murphy's number 1 defensive tackle on my board.
If he's there, you know what I'm saying?
I think
I'm talking about in my eyes. I'm not sure if he is. I honestly see Brock Bowers being there more than I see Byron Murphy. You look at the past few years.
Brock will be gone in the first 7 picks for sure.
I 100% agree. He's probably going to go somewhere around 10 to the Jets. But
for a guy.
Yeah, Tattoo Murphy's going to go top 10. I don't see. I see Murphy not being there as much as I see Brock Bowers not being there personally. But honestly, here's the real question, from my perspective. Let's say J.C. Latham is there and Mims is there.
You take him.
If Latham is there, I think he's the lock right and pick for them.
Oh yeah,
he's big, he's athletic, he's young,
he
he's
can
younger
play guard and then go to tackle. Or if Orlando Brown goes down, right? Trent Brown can move to left tackle and Latham can play right tackle.
Yeah.
If he's there,
in my notes I had
there.
Latham is a predicted 17th on the consensus board.
Boy.
So and guess who's picking one pick after us? I'm pretty sure the Steelers are picking 19,
20,
or 20. So it's like, in my eyes, I just know the way the draft goes back and forth between the Bengals and the Steelers. There's always a year or two. I could totally see them moving up a spot or two in front of us and picking up J.C. Latham or one of the top offensive linemen, one of the top tackles. Because interior offensive line is not great in this draft from what I've seen. So those who are going after linemen are going after tackles.
Is about the best,
one of the smaller guys, but definitely one of the most established.
Right.
But I don't know. I would say right now, if I had to write in a pick, I would say it would be J.C. Latham, the Troy Fontanu, and if it's Mims versus someone like Byron Murphy, I think you take Byron Murphy. But if Latham or Fontanu are there, I think that's the pick for the Bengals.
Yeah.
Personally. Mims, maybe.
Maybe even Jackson Powers Johnson. That'd be a tough one to pass too.
Yeah. I want to see trench players no matter what, whether it's O-line or D-line. Me personally. But I think it's going to be a tackle. I think it's going to be the best tackle available.
Well, somebody for
Tattoo Man said Steelers need a center, maybe Powers. So maybe they move up. I'm pretty sure the top interior lineman is that Graham Borton from Duke. He's only 21. He plays all the interior position. And then Jackson Powers is like the second highest graded interior offensive lineman.
They got PFF's got Jackson Powers at 1.
Yeah.
Frazier at 2.
Yeah, Frazier's.
And then Haynes at 3. Yeah.
And that Borton kid up there,
now,
probably.
I don't know if you guys have what all tape and video you've watched, if anybody, but somebody like you guys and any of you Bengal fans out there, good chance for not getting Tyler Boyd back. I think a guy who would be a great pickup in the 3rd round is Ricky Pearsall out of Florida. You watch this guy play. Tyler Boyd 2.0. Loves the middle of the field, can do contested catches. Great hands. I think he'd be a real solid value in the 3rd round if they could get him.
Yeah, that's what's crazy, man. When I originally wrote this up, I actually had Ricky Pearsall in the 3rd round.
Did you?
But then it was
I like the kid's tape, man. He's played a lot of football.
Yeah, man.
Good hands.
Kid is an all-star for sure. But he might still be there in round 4, though, because it's like, dude, I don't know, man. There's a lot of guys that's floating under the radar. It seems like in the draft, they're just floating, almost like Tyler Boyd's floating in free agency. You know what I mean? Like,
well, I got another question.
Under the radar.
Do you think you guys were going to draft running back at some point in the draft?
Maybe late. What was Chase Brown last year? 5th round?
I didn't. CB was like 3 or 4, wasn't he?
I had a cold chill. 4th or 5th round, wasn't he?
Something like
Chase
that.
Brown.
I'd have to pull it up, but
punter with the 7th round pick. Get Robbins out of here.
Here, I can tell you. Chase Brown.
Yeah, I didn't.
I'm not sure. I was looking to see if it was in that data sheet, but it's not.
Yeah, I didn't have any running backs, man.
Honestly, my sleeper pick, I think, this draft is that Patrick Paul kid, dude. He's an offensive tackle. He literally listen to this kid's measurables. First off, he was a 2-time captain at Houston. He's 22.
Type of guy.
So he checks the young box. He checks the captain box twice. In fact, aside from Garrett Greenfield from South Dakota State, who's almost 25, he's like way, way down there. Nobody else is a 2-time captain of all the top tier tackles this draft. But anyways, Patrick Ball, two-time captain. He's 22. He clicks the young box. His overall score is 80.7 as the RAS score, and he's where's his measurables? Here we go. It is. He is 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth down. So he is. This kid is 6'7" and 4. He's 6'7", 331 pounds. Has almost 10-inch hands, which isn't like that big. The more elite guys are like 11, 10.25. He's got the longest reach in the draft at 36.25 arm length. Has the biggest wingspan, obviously, at 86.25. He's 22, 6'7", 330. He's a consensus 59th best player in this draft.
Well, then if we get Murphy or Newton with the 18 pick,
but
there's our trench player for you.
Here's my thought,
number 49.
Here's my thought, though. What if you don't get him at 2 because you feel like he's reaching, but you're worried he's going to not be there at 3? The Bengals have 3 third-round picks. The Bengals had a top 30 visit with him and met at the combine.
I thought we had 2 third-round picks.
I thought in the third round we had 3. Maybe it's the one round we have 3 picks.
Yeah, we got 2 in the third, and then the 18th and the 49th. 4 picks in the first.
Yeah, I know we have 4 picks in the first 90.
We have 2 picks in the third round, 2 picks in the 6th round, and 2 picks in the 7th round. Other than that, it's just 1 pick per round.
Well, either way, if you don't think he's going to be there at 3 in the third round, because he's like fringe second, third round, like consensus. But here's the thing: a kid like that, everybody looks at him as a sleeper pick. You know how many other teams are going to be looking at him that met with him and they're like, man, this kid is much better than what he's graded out at right now. He was good in college. He played 5 years of college ball because he got a COVID year, and he's only 22. This dude has 5 times the reps as Mims.
Right.
But yet, and he's as big. I mean, he's huge. He's as big as Mims, but Mims has obviously a massive upside, which is why everybody loves him. But if you can somehow,
a lot of shit that factors into it too.
Guess the last player that the Bengals reached and went up were above where their consensus was predicted at to go get. Cordell Wilson. I could see him doing the same thing and getting this kid in the second round, or moving up in the third and getting him. That's the type of person you move up and get.
I honestly think, I mean it. I honestly think in this draft, the Bengals may do something they haven't done in 25 years, and let's move up.
Yeah.
Because the talent is there, and you do have the picks, and you're not drafting, a particular positions because you have to have them. Anything fucking possible.
I agree.
Let's go get.
All right, before we wrapping up draft predictions, we'll do one more little ad segment. We're gonna talk to the people about some sponsorship this year for season 2. Just let's go around. We'll say a name. Who you think the name's going to be called at 18? Bobby, go ahead. What do you think the name's going to be? One name.
Byron Murphy.
Ray.
I'm going to go with Amarius Mims, man.
Wow, I thought you were going to say Murphy. I'm going to say J.C. Latham.
I just don't think he's going to be there, dude.
Man,
I mean, obviously, if Byron's there, we're picking him.
Yeah,
Byron taking him,
Yeah.
But if he's gone, it's going to be Amarius Mims. That's kind of where I'm at with it.
All right. Well, before we get into some closing thoughts, which is how we finish up every episode, normally we would go into our second ad right now. But like I figured we would take this time and, just a few here minute, maybe a minute or so to, just let people know, we're interested in sponsorship. We've had, I think 4 or 5 sponsors for during season 1.
Yep.
And we had some nice write-ups for them. This season is going to be a little bit different, which we're going to talk about in the closing. Obviously, as we're live right now, this isn't a pre-recorded, just what every episode was from season 1, and every episode from season 1 was audio only, and this is obviously video. So, but yeah, I mean, you can reach out to us at the Bengal Brothers Podcast at gmail.com, which, fans, we want you to reach out, give us your thoughts, touch base and, feedback. Exactly. That's really what we're looking for.
Definitely.
And,
Get better.
yeah. But yeah, so if you're interested in getting your business or Facebook page or whatever side hustle you got going on, reach out to us, at the Bengal Brothers Podcast at gmail.com. And you could be one of our 2 table reads every episode. Eventually, during season 2, it's going to move to 3. So yeah, reach out to us and reach out to one of the 3 of us if you know us on our personal page, or reach out to the Bengal Brothers Podcast at gmail.com. And yeah, you could get on the show, or your business could be on the show. So, alrighty. Well, I don't know about you guys, but man, I've really enjoyed this.
Yeah, man, it's great to be back, man. Especially doing the video like you said, and I mean, people didn't realize we were brothers just because they could hear us. Now they can physically see us, and I'm sure there's
Right.
some resemblance there that they could pick up on.
A little bit for sure.
Well, unfortunately, though, the draft is just a tease because once it's over, then we got the long wait to training camp and finally preseason. But
well, we got post draft Tuesday night.
We're getting there.
So we really appreciate everyone who stopped through tonight. And if you're watching this the next day or the next couple of days leading up to the draft, hopefully our predictions are close, and hopefully you've learned something about what happened in the offseason this year. Some of the big changes, obviously, we're video now, and we're no longer pre-recorded, audio only. So all of our episodes are going to be live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, which we appreciate. People we've had in the comments and the people who watched throughout the night. I think we've peaked at one point, like 15 or 16 people. It's went up and down most of the night, we'll be back a week from tonight on Tuesday. What is that? The 30th, week from tonight, for a post draft. And then we've talked about it. We're going to do a camp special, right? Do something during camp, maybe post some media down from camp.
Yep.
So, if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you like and follow, subscribe to the channel. That helps out a lot. Twitch, the same. For probably not the post-draft special, but the camp special. And then obviously for season 2, we're not going to be live on my Facebook. We're going to be live on the Bengal Brothers Facebook page. So post-draft episode, you'll be able to go like that page and stuff.
Check it out.
Yeah.
Well, as always, it is a great time to be a Bengals fan right now. Such a good time.
It is.
Without a doubt, man. Without a doubt.
And I'm excited for the draft, and I'm excited to go back and see how close we were on some of these predictions.
Let's get this.
So,
Yeah.
That's
about right.
But all right, as usual, thanks for listening, and we'll see you guys Tuesday night.
Who day?
Who day?
Yeah, man. Who day? Thanks for watching, guys.